Shannon.
Hi, friend. I don't even sound like that.
Listen, you my wild card here, and we are in Las Vegas, 2022, London International Awards.
Yes.
And the first time actually I met you in person, we worked together, but it was always like on Zoom, and now like finally I meet you in person, like, you know, no better person to be a wild card on this Ocean 15, podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be the wild card, the 16th. Thank you for placing me next to all this money.
It's like
it's
literally like
I'm about to go to the roulette table and make this work.
That's it.
That's what you get for having a Jersey girl up in here.
Like, look, we say, like Ocean 15, like trace back to transatlantic, and there's like a format I created, like to interview my guests through the 7 seas interview. We believe that everybody's an ocean. You are a fucking ocean, let me tell you. It's like, so here we go. First half of the podcast. So I'm gonna cross your ocean through the 7 questions. Let's start with the first one. She didn't do it because she wanted to prove a paint to the world. She just did it because she wanted to prove a point to herself. This statement described the gigantic accomplishment of Anne Davidson, the first woman to have crossed the Atlantic Ocean by boat. She departed from England on 23-foot wooden sailboat with the spirit of a warrior. We get into advertising with the same spirits. At least I got into advertising with the spirit of a warrior. And the most common point is that we are not quitters. We never quit, we power through. Otherwise, why would we endure so many rejections in an industry that is highly based on subjectivity?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Why even go into advertising? Let me ask you, why did you get into advertising? Were you trying to prove a point, or it just happened by accident?
It completely happened by accident. I didn't actually, of course I knew what advertising was,
right,
as a person who grew up in this country surrounded by advertising. So you can look at something and say, that's a commercial or that's an ad. But the industry of advertising, the idea or the thought that I could get paid to think about things, or I could get paid to do the things that I had been doing naturally most of my life, and there was a way to qualify it from an industry perspective, was wild to me. It was wild to me. Like, I thought advertising was a scam, and because it didn't make any sense in the line of, like, when you think about what you're supposed to do. I was supposed to be a doctor. I went to Howard University, physician assistant, pre-med, because very tangible careers, especially in my community, are very, very highly regarded, because they're respectable. They come with titles like doctor, and esquire and things like that, because that's what we know to be important. And being an artist, which is where I started, it's very highly regarded as well, but it doesn't make any money.
It's funny you say so, because I remember I got into advertising because I wasn't really trying to prove a point, but was trying to talk to people. Yeah. I'll tell you why. Like, I always had this urge of, like, of sending, like, messages to people. I used to call myself Herzog. Herzog is like, he's actually a novel by Sao Bello, and the character in the novel sent letter to the world. So back in the day when I started advertising in 1998, like, out of home was huge and print was huge, and I always thought, like, if I can get an out of home out there, man, with my headline.
But see, that's crazy. I didn't even know what that was. Even like the term out of home. Like, I was so young, I want to say I really crossed the ocean of advertising or into it when I was maybe 22.
Wow.
And I realized what the difference between this color and this color could do. And I got in it through one of the oldest kind of like industries in the book, party promotion.
Party promotion.
I used to design flyers. I used to design club flyers, And then you start working with local quote unquote marketing companies, and you just see a bunch of guys trying to figure out how to get girls to come to a nightclub. And then the one woman in there is like, why don't you do this? But even like the idea of like, why don't you do this? Like, why don't you get to, you know, the actual human truth of what a woman wants to feel like when she walks into a space like a nightclub. I didn't realize I was pitching. I didn't realize I was formulating the concept. I didn't realize that I was executing that concept, you know, and pieces of material. Like, that all became clear to me when I actually started to work in the industry, and I realized, shit, I've been doing this most of my life. And I just didn't realize it because the idea of it as a career just wasn't something that reached, you know, me at that time. And I still think some days I'm just like, yo, they are gonna pull me out of this shit one of these days. Right. You know what I mean?
It happens to me, you know, sometimes like I'm like on my desk. I don't even use a desk anymore.
I'm like,
I'm on an armchair, I'm writing. Sometimes I just do like this, and I was like, fuck, I can't believe they're paying me for this shit.
I know, right? I'm like, yo, this is a fucking scam.
You know, it's like, it's
I'm
awesome.
Like, they really pay me this amount of money to do this. This is wild.
Anyway, yeah, second question. Until the invention of an accurate sea clock by carpenter and clockmaker John Harrison in the 18th century, there was no reliable technique to measure a ship longitude. You couldn't measure like east or west position, especially when the ship navigator could not use landmark, or they could not like read the celestial points, right? So if one were to pop the question, where on earth are you? At that time, you couldn't have an answer. Nowadays, longitude and latitude help us chart our position on earth. And if you look at me, I'm actually filled with longitude and latitude of all the places where I live. Right here is like San Francisco, longitude and latitude. So here's a question for you. Imagine replacing longitude and latitude with two of the things in your life that count the most and define who you are, not just where you are on earth. What would these two things be?
That define who I am.
And where you are.
And where I am. Two things. The first thing would absolutely be comfort.
Comfort.
I've just kind of entered a phase where I am truly becoming comfortable with me.
Okay, that's interesting.
And because I am just very comfortable, not complacent, but I have looked, you know, I'm examining myself and who I am and all the things that I've gone through in my life and the type of woman, you know, the type of leader, the type of creative that they have manifested, and I'm comfortable with that. I see a lot of people who aren't confident in themselves every day, and I see the output of that, you know, how it manifests in their relationships or their work, you know, and I am very, very comfortable in who I am right now. And I even know that scares a lot of people, but I'm not going to get another body. I'm not going to get another breath. I'm not going to get another pair of me. And there's never going to be another me.
And for that is the longitude. What would be the latitude, the second thing?
The latitude would honestly be, wow, it's funny that I said honestly, truth. Truth. Just, I just saw an incredible amount of work over the last 2-3 days, right? And one of the things that I was looking for, one of the things I always look for as a juror is like, what is the truth in this work? What is the human truth? What is the business truth, you know? Because case studies or whatnot, I do great case studies, right? It's all bullshit, you know? And I use that to guide, like, how am I gonna look at it? How am I gonna judge that? The same applies to me. It applies to how I work. It applies to where I work. It applies to who I work with. And once these two things really start to, you know, intersect, not just with me, with anyone else who's at that point in their life, you're unstoppable. Like, if there's one beautiful thing about growing older, and I became really comfortable, I'm 42, comfortable with growing older, was surrounding myself with women in their 50s and 60s who literally don't give a fuck because they are so comfortable with who they are. and they are so confident, and they can confidently say yes, no, or I don't know. And you'd be so, you see this as a creative too, when people don't have that confidence and they don't have that inner compass of, I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to walk away from this seemingly great opportunity because it's not for me. Or I'm going to enter into this room that perhaps I've never been invited into, but fuck it, I'm not going to wait for an invitation. I'm going to go. That sets the ground for, I think, a brilliance that many of us are trying to look for, and I'm still trying to grasp as well. And I quickly realized that talent and discipline and everything is, that's one thing, but it really, really does start with a deeper emotional intelligence.
Confidence and truth, two great words. I love it. Recently, and this is very weird, sometimes like I read something, and then a word of what I read pop up the day after. Yeah. And somehow, I don't know if it happened to you, it's like so weird, right?
Or I'll think of something,
and then
I'll read about it.
Yeah, it's like something happened in the universe where you call in this catch-22 thing.
We're all interconnected that way.
Right, and I've read these, so normally you have a word called throughout your life, right? But instead of writing as throughout, writing as truth out.
Truth out. Throughout, truth out.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
That's what made me think about it. Anyway, third question. 200 million years ago, the world maps show all the continents assembled in the supercontinent of Pangaea. The continent have been shifting further apart since then, but give the Earth a few hundred million years, and mostly what's going to happen, they're going to re-emerge into one continent. One proposed name for that possible future reunion is going to be a Pangaea Proxima. Now, to spread apart, to come together, this type of accordion movement seems to be part of the evolution that all humankind is caught upon. Now, in the beginning, there were a few holding company, if you bridge this into advertising. Mm-hmm. Now it seems that they're all coming together and do you think that in the future they're gonna it's gonna be only just one company, one giant company that is gonna hold everything, or is we're gonna still have 5 or 6 divided continents that are never going to come together?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I even think about when I first started, and to where I am now, and even how it's affected my language. VMLY&R, Wenderman Thompson.
Right.
It's
this merging, this Pangaea.
But to tell you the truth, it's just, do I think it's going to continue to merge in really interesting ways? Yes. Mm-hmm. I think new players in the market are going to enter the market. Think about your Dentsus and your Accentures and things of that nature. But I tend to think of it as just like these chips. People are just shuffling, but nothing's really changing. It's just shuffling. And we shuffle sometimes, I think, to distract ourselves from breaking, our building, our taking away, our leaving things behind. So
that's an honest answer.
I let very fancy people figure that out.
Great. Look, fourth question. Be ready to leave the ocean and embark on an extraordinary journey, because this is what's going to take you, this question. Never doubted myself till I met a computer with a sense of humor. Now, the person who said this is actually Manny, the protagonist of the science fiction novel, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert Heinlein. I read that book last year, and it really stayed with me. The novel recounts the events that took place on the moon by a group of people called loonies. Mm-hmm. They used to live on the moon during a lunar colony revolt against Earth. The co-protagonist of the novel is Mike, a computer with a dark sense of humor. Computers, artificial intelligence are some elements very present and dominant in our lives right now. If you were to give the chance to transfer a human quality to a computer, what that quality be? You gotta work with that computer then. If I can say you now, hey, I give you one human quality that you can transfer to your Mac right now. What would that be?
Nuance.
Nuance. You gotta explain me that, man.
Well, nuance is everything, because yes, like,
Is that categorized as a human quality?
I think nuance is a very human quality.
It's a very human quality.
It's not like you're not like disengaging from the truth, but you are exploring, the truth in front of you from different ways, and you're figuring out, or you're engaging with it through different viewpoints and understanding, like, well, from this viewpoint, this is true, but from this viewpoint, whereas it's true, it's not meaningful. Therefore, is it right? Like, that's nuance. That's context and nuance. But you said one, because I would say context and nuance. And that is what I think is the brilliance of the human mind. The ability to see things for what they are, but translate them and understand that they're going to translate. You can translate them differently depending on your experience
and your
where you are. Yeah, your perception. And that's what I think that's what makes us humans. If we didn't have nuance, if we didn't have context or whatnot, we would be computers in a way. It would just be binaries.
Binary.
Yeah.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, but like with nuance and, like I said, secondarily context, it gives us the opportunity to do, a very human thing, critical thought.
I'm going to riff off this with something that's going to blow your mind. You probably already know, but we are made of molecule, right?
Yeah.
So we are molecule with nuances. That's the new definition. I love this.
You're dust.
Okay, look, fifth question. There's a little group of isolated islands called like Tristan da Cunha, surrounded by miles and miles of the South Atlantic Ocean. The main island is inhabited by about 275 residents, no more than that.
Okay.
The island population is made of 80 families that just live there. They mostly have the same surnames, and the most like are all related. Imagine that you had to pledge your way through. You want to live in the island, but you have to pitch yourself as the 276 residents. How would you pitch yourself and say, let me in?
Well, I wouldn't pitch myself based on one thing.
Okay.
I'm incredibly ambidextrous and in so many ways. Like I've lived, I feel like 4 different lives. I am filled with endless, useless facts about everything.
Are you ambidextrous really that you can write with left and right?
I used to be when I was really, really young, but
Okay.
no. But a lot of kids are. I'm more so, when I say ambidextrous, I mean in terms of, I'm a writer and an art director, right? I can produce, but I can also create or direct. Like, there's a lot that I can do, and that comes from, the different industries that I've been a creative in. But beyond that, like, I can figure out how to be useful in any situation. I'm married. We were talking about this one day. We were talking about our spouses, I think, and I said,
Yes.
I married an electrician.
Yes.
So at the end of the world, I have no job, but he does, which is great. But I pivoting off of that, it's like, what would I do next to him? Like, I would figure something out, And so I think if all of those people in that society, if it seems to be very ordered or whatnot, you need a wild card.
Oh, gosh.
You need a wild card.
Here we are.
You need me.
Back to Ocean
Yes.
15 wild card.
You need a wild card. You
But
need
look, I
someone
gotta say,
who can go in and do just about
Right.
anything. That's me.
I would have pitched you in this way, and that's how I met you. Like, I think you are, of course, I don't have to tell you you're amazing creative, but I remember having a creative meeting with you while you were cooking in the kitchen. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was the best things I ever seen in my life, man. I was like, gosh, that's not multitasking. That's just pure awesomeness.
Thank
Someone
you.
that, like, I thought, like, that's what we need on the island. As a 27-6, like,
Yes.
resident, you should say, hey, look.
I can cook
I can
and
cook,
run a
I
pitch.
can do creative meeting.
Can run a creative meeting and forgot what I was doing, but yeah, I can make a good meal too.
Okay, look, sixth question. History is filled with discoveries of monoliths in the deep abyss of the ocean, but sometimes the ocean isn't the place where we should be looking. It's a mysterious chain of events. This is actually kind of crazy. In late November 2020, a monolith was found in the middle of the Utah desert. Okay?
Oh.
Following this crazy discovery, the same type of monolith appeared in Romania, and then in Spain, and then in Netherlands, and then in California, and then in the island of Hawaii. So artists began taking credit for this monolith, but no legit name came up, and nothing has come up yet. Then just recently, a metal pillar has shown up in the southern region of Turkey, where the oldest temple site is, and the metal pillar has an inscription that read, "Look at the sky if you want to see the moon." When was the last time that you actually look up at something to find inspiration rather than like look down, even if it was a book or something here on earth, but you actually look up at something?
Oh, I mean, okay. I can answer that two ways.
Yeah.
I get some of my best ideas, my best motivations when I'm flying, when I'm in the air.
Really?
And I'm looking out into the clouds, and I'm really, really, when you see weather, when you can see a storm, when you see how, like, the layers of clouds or whatnot, it's very relaxing to me, and it makes me feel incredibly small, which I like. So that's like one place that I'm like, I look forward to flying, especially in the daytime, for that reason. But the last time I would actively say I looked up, I was in Thailand, and I had just completed another experience with my company, a side company that I own, a travel company. And, you see stars differently all around the world, and because it's dependent on so many different things, like pollution and the development, things of that nature. But to understand that my view of this world as I looked up wouldn't necessarily change, but I would be in a different place and I would connect to it, and I could see so many different stars that night. I was on the beach in Phuket, and I had felt like, okay, like we were talking about earlier, like comfortable, like I'm getting comfortable. I'm getting back to me, and look at this moment and look at this. It was, Simone, it was a blanket of stars I've never seen before. And I just felt like, this is why I go nuts 6 days a week.
That's awesome.
Just to have a moment like this and have a culmination of how hard I've worked was really, really special. And then you ruin it by trying to take a picture of it.
Of course. Then you put the
God.
filter between you
and you're
and
just
the
like,
sky.
why did I do
what
that?
you have to do.
Why did I do that?
Well, look, talking about wonderful memories, this brings me to the last question. It's a question we ask to all our London International Awards guests. When are you flying back to New York?
When?
Yeah.
Monday.
So I believe that you gotta have a carry-on and a luggage. Now I'll give you pick two memories from this week, and hold on. You gotta put these two memories, one in your carry-on and one in your luggage. Tell me which memory goes where and why.
And my carry-on.
And your luggage.
One of my luggage. So, okay. So would it denote, if it's my carry-on, it's more precious, and my luggage I can kind of do
you
without
got it, sister. That's exactly
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing here. Do I roll it up? Do I wrap it in plastic?
Well, I mean, nobody can lose your carry-on, but
okay,
what would you put
right.
there?
What would I put in my carry-on? I have I'm not run into, but there are so many people here who represent different facets of my life in a way, or my career, are just parts of me that is really special, and I like running into them, and I don't get to see this is a convergence of people, which is great,
Right.
But I think for me, being here and running into people like Danny Robinson and one of your 15, he's around here somewhere, Jeff Edwards, Kalita Sherman, there's just, there's a camaraderie. Samira, like I'm just naming people right now. Like I'm naming people that represent different parts of my career and like my journey.
Right.
In a way, I would keep that in my carry-on because that's kind of like the other reason we're in this. We were talking about this, I think, like a few minutes ago. Like, this is a fraternity of sorts, you know?
Sure.
And you wonder why you stay in it. And it's like, just like I had like this great 30-second conversation with this person that kind of put everything into perspective, right?
What about your luggage?
My luggage, I might have to put a few things in my luggage.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna put 2 things in my luggage, okay? My husband's here with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just having a lot of fun watching him react to Vegas.
Right.
Because Vegas is not a real place.
Don't tell me that you're going to put your husband in your luggage.
No, because that'd be bad.
They can lose you.
Yeah, damn. No, but I would put the memory of watching him react to Vegas in my luggage.
That's awesome.
Like, it's because it's just fun to watch somebody be in Vegas for the first time. Okay, I had this moment in my jury. It's very rare, if not, actually, this has never happened to me, where someone sitting in my jury is in the work that I'm looking at. And I forgot Ben's last name, president of Leo Burnett Canada. His wife, and his son are actually in a case study, a very special case study, around Down syndrome. And, you know, we look sometimes when we don't know people, you know, you just think about like who they are, their title, and where they work. So he's the CEO of an agency in Canada. You know what I mean? Like but it was so wonderful to be reminded that we are parents. You know, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're daughters, we're sons. And in that moment, and he was, you know, stepped out when he needed to and things of that nature, but it was so refreshing and a great reminder to see someone as a father to, you know, wonderful children and a little boy that is a part of an amazing community that the work that was associated with really needed, you know? And so it connected a lot of dots for me personally around like why we do this, but like why we take things so seriously and like what our work actually means, because it's right there in front of you. Like, you know, the audiences that we talk about, like the demographics or whatnot, they're graphs on paper, like, you know, they're psychographs. We name them sometimes, right? We rarely sit next to them,
Right.
you know, and that's something that I try to tell my teams all the time, like go outside and immerse yourself in the world that you are making work for. You are not making work for me, or maybe you are, you don't know, right? But you have to go into these communities, but when these communities kind of like come into this space, I've never had that happen before, and that was really special. So I would wrap it in a towel.
That's
in
great.
my bag.
That's great.
Yeah.
Look, if there's one thing I take away from this interview, I always take away like a definition of my guest. You're going to be from now on like the molecule with nuances. Millions of molecule nuances. Look, I can't thank you enough for being
molecule with nuance.
Molecule. She's like, I need to work on the pronunciation. Look,
thank you for having
thank
me.
you enough like for being like, you know, such an amazing guest at the Ocean 15 at the Wild Card. So
thank you for letting me be the welcome.
Travel safe.
And thank you just for being here, because I have been waiting to meet you in person.
Thank you.
I feel like we know each other. We talk
know.
all the time, but I cannot believe I just hugged you for the first time in real life.
It was a
48
pleasure.
hours ago.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you, Simone.
Thank you.
Can I keep this? You see, I'm putting these chips back, y'all. Here we go.
Yeah, because we need it.